Well, at 14 minutes to 9, let us talk to David Jones, who's a member of the European Research Group of Conservative MPs, former Brexit minister himself, of course, and also a North Wales MP, so knows at least one of those Airbus plants really well, the one at Broughton. Good morning, Mr. Jones.
Good morning.
Do you think it is possible that Broughton either withers or does eventually die?
Well, I don't think so, as a matter of fact. Tom Enders, of course, has made threats such as this for some time. But he knows that a large proportion of his very loyal workforce in Broughton actually voted to leave the European Union. He's one of the largest companies in the UK. In fact, his plant in Broughton is the single biggest manufacturing facility in the UK. And he's in a unique position to exert influence not only over the British government, but also over the European Union. And I very much hope that people in Brussels will be listening to what he says just as closely as I've no doubt the British government is listening.
What he says, though, does suggest, doesn't it, never mind what the arrangements might be in some years' time, but actually the arrangements after March the 29th, if we were to leave with no deal, there would be friction. There is simply no question about that, and that would damage him and damage the interests of those people who work at Broughton. That's just true, isn't it?
Well, actually, he's in an industry that's very fortunate in that there are no tariffs imposed on aircraft and indeed on most aircraft components. So to that extent, his industry doesn't have the problems of disruption that other industries might have. Certainly, there might be some issue over border checks, but that is something that can be overcome, just as it's overcome at the moment for all those components that Airbus import from other parts of the world than the European Union.
On the backstop issue, the Ireland border issue, about which we have been hearing quite a lot this morning, Michel Barnier talking on German radio about it, saying that there cannot be a time limit on the backstop. You want it changed. Do you at least accept that that is true? Whatever we arrange can't be time limited.
Well, I think that in reality that's correct. A backstop becomes meaningless if it's time limited. So I think that's right. But I think that the EU clearly will have been listening to what the British Parliament has been saying over the last couple of weeks. The backstop is the single issue that is preventing a deal.
So what's the solution?
Well, I think that the answer must be that the backstop is removed, and the European Union has got to consider the damage to the European Union itself if in fact we leave without a deal.
But there's no way that we suggested it in the first place, didn't we? Number two, even if you remove the wording, there would have to be a backstop, because there cannot be, as everyone accepts, a border between the North and the South of Ireland.
Well, I think that that's right. Interestingly, the European Union itself now appears to be coming up with some alternative solutions, and we heard only yesterday that they're now suggesting that the UK and Ireland should form a separate bloc with border controls on the continent of Europe for Irish goods. That may be a way forward, but I think that what it does illustrate is that at least people are starting to think creatively in Brussels and recognising the reality that for so long as the backstop remains in the withdrawal agreement, there will be no withdrawal agreement.
If Yvette Cooper's amendment is passed in Parliament and the government is mandated to seek an extension of Article 50, what in those circumstances should the government do?
Well, I think that the government should resist it, certainly, because, in fact,
But how?
Well, the Cooper Amendment doesn't actually resolve anything. It just kicks the can down the road until the end of the year.
How should they resist it, then?
Well, there are various ways that it could be done. Jacob Rees-Mogg, as you know, suggested prorogation of Parliament yesterday, but...
would you support that?
I think that we'd have to look at all sorts of ways that we could adopt in order to honour what the British people...
So you're not ruling out the idea that Parliament is simply closed in order to stop this happening?
I think we have to recognise that Parliament devolved the decision on British membership of the European Union to the British people. The British people have voted to leave the European Union, and quite clearly there are a number of parliamentarians who are unhappy with that decision and are doing their level best to frustrate what the people voted for. It's interesting that in Yvette Cooper's own constituency, most of her constituents actually voted to leave as well. So there are 17.4 million people out there who are going to be appalled at the gyrations of parliamentarians who are attempting to frustrate what they voted for, and therefore Parliament again must start, the government again must start looking at all sorts of creative solutions to ensure that the will of the people is actually delivered on.
David Jones, thank you.